Mahabharata, when Yudhishthira and the other four Pandavas and Draupadi, they were in exile. Towards the end of their exile, they are once approached by a Brahmin who said that my sticks for yagya, aranya sticks, have been misplaced. A deer took them. They got stuck in its homes. So he needs those sticks. Now at first they thought if we go out, we may get spotted and the exile will end, they'll have to go back into exile. But in line with their dharma, in line with their duty, they decide to follow the deer or the stag and find out about the sticks. But the Brahmana was actually another celestial being. So eventually they get to a place and they get tired and they feel really thirsty. So at a distance is a pond. So each of the 5 brothers approach the pond. One by one they go to it to source some water. But there an invisible voice appears and says, first you have to answer certain questions before you can drink the water. This pond belongs to me. But Nakula, Sahadeva, Arjuna and Bhima, they were in their own ego and so full of themselves, they said, we don't care who you are. We are the greatest Kshatriya prince on this planet. So we will do as we please. This is God's lake, not anybody's. So they take water, but as soon as they drink, they die. A while later, Yudhishthira comes there and worried to see and really devastated to see his 4 brothers dead. The same voice appears and Yudhishthira, in line with his dharma, bows before and says, what do you want? He says, this is my lake. First you have to answer my questions and then you can have the water. And Yudhishthira agrees. If you look at the absolute essence of Mahabharata, the first word is Dharma of Bhagavad Gita. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. Dharma and Kurukshetra is karma bhumi. So duty and karma, they go together. Religion and karma go together. Spirituality and karma go together. One is incomplete without the other. And the last shlok, last verse of Bhagavad Gita is Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatro Parthor Dhanudaraha Tatra Shijo Bhutir Dava Nitir Matir Mama. That wherever he is remembered, there exists wisdom and victory. But the last word is mam, means me, mine, I am Dharma. So your karma alone are your Dharma. The whole of Mahabharata is based on Dharma. What is right should be done, even though it may not exactly be moral. Even though the world may disagree. Because the world will always have 2 opinions, agreement or disagreements. Very few people will be neutral. They are like the pendulum just about to swing, take a position one way or the other. So let that not bother you. Tasmad uttishta kanta yuddhaya kritanishya. Get a virgin and fight. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmar yuddhacha. Keep me in your mind and continue to fight. Because that is your dharma. You must reclaim what you have lost. Unlike some of the other scriptures in our religion, this is not about take everything lying down. This is when you know something to be true, sometimes you have to go and claim it. If something is your right, if you want that right over peace, then go claim it. In Mahabharata, Pandavas first tried everything they could to have peace. They said, okay, give us one region. They gave them Khandavprasth that they turned into Indraprasth. And then they lost it and they said, okay, just give us 5, little towns. They tried everything. Sometimes when you have tried everything to come to a conclusion and there's a deadlock, life expects you to take a stand at that time. Because you have to take a position one way or the other. So indecisiveness is the greatest disease one can suffer from. When you take a decision, stick to it. It may have a downside, but not as much as indecisiveness. So, going back to our story, Yaksha, so he says, I'm a Yaksha. And he says, I'll ask you some questions. And he asks Yudhishthira a list of whole heap of questions. And I really enjoy them, each one better than the other. He starts with, what makes the sun rise? Brahma, Yudhishthira says. Now, what is Brahma? Brahma is your desire. Brahma, your desire is what gets you out of bed every morning. That's when sun has risen for you. Otherwise for you it's dark. If you're sleeping, it's dark for you. Sun rises for you when you go out there to do work. When you go out there to do something meaningful. So he said, what makes the sun rise? Brahma. Who are sun's companions? Devas. Yudhishthira says, the Devas are sun's companions. Devas are gods. Demigods or gods. Now who are Devas? Indra is your mind. And all your positive emotions are the Devas. You can only fulfill your desires if you positively work towards it. There is no other way. Actions alone will bring results. For anything you want to get done, you have to take some action towards it. Why does the sun set? Dharma makes him set. Why does the sun set? Dharma makes him set. Because reasonably you cannot keep doing one thing for 24 hours. You have done work, now you need to leave space for other living beings to do their work at night. Ya nisha sarabhutanam tasyam jagriti sayami yasyam jagriti bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. What is night for all the living beings is day for the yogi. And what is day for everybody else is night for the yogi. Because most people are only awake and are only working towards something. It is basically fulfillment of their desires. Fulfillment of endless desires. And the other thing, the core meaning of dharma, one of the meanings of word dharma in our Sanskrit is peace. When you are peaceful, the sun sets for you. There's a quietude when the sun sets. There's a vigor when it dawns, when it rises in the morning. So when you are peaceful, you can now go to sleep. Because an agitated mind can never go to sleep. No matter how agitated you are, your mind must calm down before it will fall asleep. So Dharma makes the sun set. Ultimately, everybody is not working for happiness, but peace. Everybody just wants to feel peaceful. Because from peaceful fountains forth the greatest feeling of happiness. The more established you are in peace, the happier you will be. And then you learn to distinguish pleasures from happiness. Differentiate. There's a difference between pleasure and happiness. Pleasure is a trigger, a short-lived. Happiness is a state of mind. In whom does the sun dwell? In the truth. Sun is a synonym for gyan, for knowledge, for wisdom, for insight in Sanskrit. Gyan and prakash are synonyms. So, true knowledge only lives in truth. Because lies are always complicated and truth is always simple. It is or it isn't. Really, that's all there it is. What makes one learned? The study of the Shrutis. Shrutis are the texts, are spiritual and religious texts. Swadhyaya Vasanam Cha Vangmenta Puchyate. Swadhyaya, it's called self-study. It's one of the austerities one must practice. Why? Because you get to hear, you get to reflect on a viewpoint which is not your own. It takes one to set aside one's ego to even acknowledge another viewpoint. And Shrutis, our scriptures were written by sages who had no agenda. They didn't build ashrams, they didn't go out to give discourses. They just sat in the woods and wrote through the divine revelation whatever they got. So you get another viewpoint. And so Yudhishthira says, Shrutis, reading the Shrutis make a man learned. How does a man achieve greatness? How does a man achieve greatness? By tapas. And this is quite key because in Bhagavad Gita, there is 3 types of tap. There is 3 types of tapas defined in Bhagavad Gita. Dev Dvijguru Pragya Pojanam Shacham Arjavam Brahmachar Ahimsa Cha Shariram Tapuchyate. One type of tapas is tapas of the body, where you will bow down before your elders, before your guru, before your teacher, Dev Dvij Guru Pragya Pojanam, before the wise. Now you may not want it, you may not agree with your parents all the time. But as a matter of austerity, as a matter of tapas, you should still offer your gratitude, you should still offer your pranams to them, because they have given you birth after all. When you don't want to do something but you train yourself to do it, that's tapas. And brahmacharya ahimsa cha shariram tapuchyate. Channelizing your energy so you know where you are spending yourself. Not just sexually, but emotionally. And ahimsa. When the world turns upside down for you, when somebody attacks you in any way, how do you tackle it? Do you stoop down to their level? Or do you maintain your own integrity? So that is tapas of the body. And then, anudvai karam vakyam satyam prahitam cheta swadhyaya vasanam cha vangmayam tapuchyate. Then comes the tapas of the speech. When you make it a point to not say words that will hurt others. That's the tapas of the speech. Because sometimes you can be so frustrated and so irritated that you want to give it to the other person. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel relaxed. But it doesn't solve the purpose because they're not listening to you. At that time, there are always ways to communicate, and it's a choice. The choice we will make in a relationship, whether it's a professional or a personal, interpersonal relationship, will dictate everything about that relationship and the future of that relationship. The choice of words and the tone you choose to communicate them. They're the 2 things that matter the most. Mana prasada saumyatam manamatma vinigraha bhav sanchuddhire tapo manasam muchyate. When you make a commitment to yourself to be happy no matter what, and you continue to purify yourself, that is tapas of the mind. Now imagine if somebody were to actually train one's body, mind and speech, that person would of course be the greatest you can meet. Because now you have gained complete control over yourself. You're not driven by your mind. but the other way around. You are driving your mind. Now the cart is not before the horse anymore. And you are in control. Does a man always have a friend? Beautiful question. Does a man always have a friend? Yes. His intelligence. His intelligence alone is his greatest friend. And here I refer to Bhagavad Gita again. Udred atmana atmanam na atmanam musadet atmaya hi atmano bandhur atmaya vripur atmana. You are your own greatest friend and your own worst enemy. When your mind is in control, you are your own friend. When you are in control of your mind, you are your own worst enemy. Because at that time, you are likely to take action or do something that you may regret later on. Because words and actions are not retractable. Once done, they're done. Damage done is done. How is intelligence acquired? By serving one's elders. Now this is, this may sound primitive, this answer. But there is great truth in it, and especially in the Eastern tradition. The disciplic succession, or from parents to kids and their children. If you serve somebody, if somebody serves you, you feel good and you feel protective about that person. Now you want to take care of them and give them whatever you have. So if you are serving somebody who has knowledge, you will most definitely get knowledge. Because what else do they need from you? They need nothing from you. There is nothing we can give them. So how can we lure them into giving us knowledge? The only way is to show care. And serving is a way of showing care. That's what serving is, right? Serving doesn't mean we have to be by their feet or always say good things. Just means that we care about their existence. I'm going to skip a couple of them. Well, actually, maybe I can continue. Where does the Brahmana's divinity lie? What makes one divine, basically? Brahman, Kshatriya, Visham, Shuddhanam, cha Paramtapa. Karmani, Pravivattani, Subha, Prabhair, Gune. Krishna says the division of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Shudra and Vaishya and Shudra is not based on birth. He makes no mention of it. He says it's based on karma. Based on their natural karma, I have divided these people. And so what makes somebody divine? His knowledge. Yudhishthira says. Of the Vedas is the complete answer. In his knowledge of the Vedas lies his divinity. But what is Ved? Ved, the word Ved means knowledge of life. That's what the word Ved means, knowledge of life. It actually just means knowledge, but in expanded, it's a way of living. If you know how to lead a sensible life, you know the Vedas. Because Vedas, the point was, let's infuse divinity in everything. Let's think of everything as God and nothing else. Now, if I revere God, then how can I be angry with anybody? How can I be mad at anybody? This life, I always say, is a very short life. It's so fragile. We just don't know if the next breath is going to be there or not. It's just not worth it to live a life of grudges and complaints. It's such a short life. Most of us in this room have perhaps already lived half our lives. And the first half is gone. Can you imagine what does that mean? The first half is gone. Maybe it's the second half, maybe a decade after that. What are we going to do with this life? Are we going to be sitting here 30 years later in a room again and listening to a discourse that is telling you to be happy? I don't think so. I think there's more to it. Every individual has a right to lead a life they desire, the wish. Yes, there are going to be obstructions, there are going to be challenges, but it's all about striking the balance. But more so, every individual must first know what do they want from their life. I want peace from my life. And I want to help others. This is my sole purpose. So what is yours? Because once you discover a purpose, and if your purpose is greater than your own existence, you will feel fulfilled. And you will feel happier. Because the work is not going to stop. Economy is not going to get any better. Orders will not come any easier. Things will not get any smarter. Only more complicated. With everything we are doing, we are adding comforts, but we are making our lives a lot more complicated. So life will continue to trip by. But what commitment have you made to yourself? I think the foremost commitment to do justice to your existence, the foremost commitment one could make to oneself is, I have decided to be happy from this moment onwards. From this moment on, I am going to be a happy person. So whenever I am given anything in words or actions by this world or anybody else which makes me unhappy, at that time I am going to remind myself of my own commitment and I am going to make a conscious choice. If this is what I want. If I want to accept or reject what's been offered to me. The way to inner peace. It's the greatest gift you can give to yourself, really. What confers divinity on a kshatriya? What makes a warrior? Everybody's a warrior. We are all trying to fight to either secure a place or to expand our territory. What makes a kshatriya? What makes him divine? His weapons. Once again, your wisdom, your intelligence, your competence, your confidence are your greatest weapons. And of course, your integrity. And what diminishes him? Fear. What a beautiful answer. Because fear can absolutely reduce you to a worm. People can go hiding in a corner somewhere because of fear. Fear. And fear is always in anticipation. There is no fear in the present moment. When you think what may happen in the next, there is fear. Even in that, when you start to visualize, something untoward happening to you, that's when fear arises. If you see a snake, the fear is not that there is a snake there. The fear is, what if it bites you? What will you do then? And then you will start to imagine the venom going through your body and you actually maybe, paralyzing out of that. But before the snake can do something, the fear paralyzes you. In the woods, I always experienced that wild animals are way more afraid of us than we are from them. Only if you don't bother them, they will not do a thing. I've seen it with bear, I've seen it with wild boars, I've seen it with baboons, I've seen it with wild rats, I've seen it with snakes, with massive lizards. I've never seen such big lizards my whole life. If you promise yourself internally, I've seen it with scorpions, that I'm not going to harm them. They won't harm you. But you have to maintain your calm. And to maintain your calm, you need a certain degree of faith. Tell me about yagyas, Yaksha says. What is Sam and Yajus? They are the Vedas. And what is the refuge of a yagya? Yudhishthira says, life is Sam. Veda nam Sam Vedo Asmi, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Of the Vedas, I'm Sam Ved. He didn't say I'm Yajur Ved or I'm Atharva Ved or I'm Rig Ved. I'm Sam Ved. Because sound is life, it's a song. So life is a song. Doesn't matter how badly you sing, as long as you sing. You should enjoy your own song, others may or may not enjoy. If others are not enjoying it, don't sing it too loud. Right? I once read a little story. There was a bird, the flock he belonged to, they used to migrate every winter. I'm sure you must have read it actually. They used to migrate every winter. And one day this bird decided, I'm not going to migrate this winter. I want to see what actually happens here. So as winter approaches, all his folks, start to go on the other side. He says, I'm going to stay here. And soon, as winter comes, he starts to feel the chill. And he decides, no, I must go as well. They were right. Sometimes just because a crowd is doing something doesn't mean it's wrong. So he starts to go on the other side. It was really cold. And in that cold, the frost and the ice got, stuck on his wings and stuff, and he fell down. Now he was unable to move. And he's thinking, I'm dead meat. There is nothing that can save me now. I'm frozen, I can't move my wings, there's nothing I can do. Just then, a cow passes and dumps on it. Now he is smothered in cow dung. And he thinks, oh, that's great. Here I was dying and now I'm deep in shit. And he's thinking what to do. But the warmth in the cow dung melted the snow. So when the snow melted, he suddenly found life back in him. So he started, singing loud chirping and stuff. A cat was passing nearby, heard a bird, it paused into the cow dung and pulled it out and ate the bird and walked away. So they say there are 3 morals in this story. First, not everybody who gets you in shit is your enemy. Second, not everybody who gets you out of shit is your friend. And third, when you're in shit and enjoying, be quiet. And so life is a song. If others are not enjoying your song but you are, sing it in the bathroom. That's what I mean to say. You don't have to make a big deal out of your life. We don't have to take ourselves too seriously. The mind is yajus, he goes, and Rik is the sanctuary of the yagya. All the stutis, the training is in Yajurveda. Even Rudrashtadhyaya is from Yajurveda. So the thing you need to train the most is your mind. Everything else will follow the training automatically. A man breathes. He enjoys every sensual pleasure. And the world holds him in esteem. Yet, he is not truly alive. Why? People are living their lives. Some even have great power. Some have a lot of wealth. Yet, they're almost like dead people walking around. Why? Yudhishthira says, because he makes no offerings to the devas or the pitras. Now, pitras are the ancestors, and devas are the positive emotions. No matter where you are, you cannot afford to get so caught up in what you do that you stop feeding your own positivity. You must feed yourself, your mind. And just working like crazy is one of the methods and not the best one. So that's what he said. And he talked about ancestors. Now, maybe tomorrow or someday else I'd like to touch upon this because it's a deep topic in itself. Why do we do Shraddh? And the role of ancestors. And are they like dead spirits walking around, or there's more to it? What is more important than the earth itself? What is more important than the earth itself? Yudhishthira says, one's mother. Our mother is more important than earth. Right? What is higher than heaven? One's father. There's a story I read long time ago. There was a couple, an old couple. They only had one son. Are you okay? Are you?
No, I'm good.
There was an old couple. They had a son, and he somehow started thinking about self-realization. And one day he decided he would leave his parents and go in the woods and practice extreme austerities. His parents really cried and they tried to hold him back. He said, please don't leave us. Who will take care of us? He said, no, I have to go. I must seek God. I must find God. So he leaves. For years, he practices extreme concentration and reaches the pinnacle of meditation. And he decides to go to the villages now to spread the knowledge. On his way back, he sits down to rest under a tree. And there was a crow on top of the tree, sitting perched on one of the branches basically. He was trying to meditate, and the crow would continue to chirp. And he looked at the crow in anger, and it turned into ashes right away. And this man realized that he had attained some great powers. He could burn a bird with a mere look. So he walks into a village and knocks on the door for food. And somebody, a woman, opens the door. She says, please wait here. I'll get you your meal. And she goes inside. At that moment, her husband enters the house. And she starts to serve her husband instead. Now this tapasvin, this man is waiting outside. And now few minutes have passed, and good 10-15 minutes have passed, and he's starting to get edgy and jittery, and he's thinking, I'm such a great tapasvin, but this is the respect they're showing me? This is ridiculous. But he waits, and then he knocks on the door again, and he says, I've been waiting here for so long. And the woman yells from inside. She said, I'm serving my husband, so here's a brick. She throws a brick. Please sit on this, and I'll be with you in a short while. Now he is really furious. And he says, do you even know who I am? And what all I can do? I can burn people with my mere look, with my mere glance. And she goes, well, do you think I'm that crow on the tree? And now he's zapped. She, a simple householder, a woman unlettered, how does she know that I just burned a crow? That's remarkable. Something's divine about it, and he sits there for half an hour. She comes half an hour later, serves him lovingly, and he says, lady, I am at my wit's end. For years I practiced austerities in the woods, and I got what I got, but here you're just doing your household work, and you knew my past. You knew about the crow, you knew about what action I did. How can this be? She said, I'm a simple woman, I have no knowledge to give you. If you want knowledge, then go to a person called Dharma. So, okay, must be an enlightened sage. So he takes the address and goes, But there is no ashram where he goes. It's a market. And he's thinking, where am I? Where is this person? Where is this sage, this saint who will tell me the most transcendental knowledge? He asks around, where is this person called Dharma? They point him all in a direction and ultimately towards a butcher shop, to a meat shop. And he's thinking, who's Dharma? And he inquires around, and a man comes out from the shop and says, I'm Dharma. And his hands were a little bloodied. He goes, are you Dharma? He said, yes. Oh, that lady must have sent you, Dharma says. He's thinking, he is even greater than her. He even knows who sent me here. And so right now I'm busy with my work. But afterwards, once I'm done in the evening, I will tend to your needs. He said, oh, I can't wait in this meat shop. He said, that's okay, you can wait anywhere you like. This man waits in the evening, he closes the shop, takes him home, makes him sit, washes his parents' feet first, asks them how their day was and stuff, serves them meal and says, okay, now we can eat. And he said, how do you know what you know? This man says to Dharmyad. He said, what, do you think everybody needs to go in the woods for 12 years and waste their time and abandon their parents? You are a fool, he said. Everybody is born with wisdom, everybody is born with knowledge, everybody is born with insight, but you chose not to look within. Instead, you went away, thinking you couldn't do those things in the presence of your parents. Now, if you want to get to the next level, you must serve your parents because they have nobody else to look after them. And that's what Krishna says, Swahavajen Kante Nibaddhasvin Karuna. Shreyanso dharma viguna parma dharma sunushtitat sahajam karma kantes dosham apina tyajyet. No matter how glamorous somebody else's life looks or their way of life, it doesn't mean you should renounce your own. Sarvarambhahi doshen dhumenagni agni varivaprita. Because wherever there is fire, there is going to be a bit of smoke. And you can't say, I don't want any smoke. I just want the fire, so I'm just going to disappear. We must deal with things as they come with great conviction and positivity. I really believe if you serve your parents and you do it, in a stable way, sooner or later, one day they will bless you from their heart. And that blessing, is my firm belief, can never fail. And no saint, no sadhu, no God, no yogi can give that blessing but the parents alone. Putra jayet kochidavi kumata na bhavati. A son may be a bad son, but a mother is never a bad mother. In Ramayana, in Ramcharitmanas, Goswami Tulsidas starts to explain about, he's talking about this person looked so glorious, so beautiful, and starts to talk about Mahasita. But then he just ends by saying, I cannot compare her beauty to anything. I'm a child. I'm not supposed to look at my mother from that angle. She is the most beautiful woman to me, that's all I know. I think when in our mind we harbor such feelings, then one day a blessing sprouts forth. And that blessing is the kavacha for the rest of your life. And I've seen it not once, but many times in many people's lives. I think worship of God starts with the parents.
What is swifter than the wind? More numerous than blades of grass. What is the highest sanctuary of man? To be literal. A religion, a way of life, must not be literal. Must have a literal beauty. And then alone, What is the highest sanctuary of Dharma? The duality. Of fame, a gift. If you want fame, you have to give. Whether you are giving knowledge or wealth, the more you are able to give, the more you have. Of heaven, the highest sanctuary of heaven, the truth. What is a man's soul? His son. Because biologically, physiologically, psychologically, searching for a mother is more, but not everyone is family. The greatest attachment generally one has. Who is the friend the gods give a man? His wife. No, he's wrong here. It's just a line to this book. I'm just joking. But the truth is, there is no relationship as close possible as a husband. And that's why she can be a good friend. But like your own mind, she can be a great friend as well. So, what is the most praiseworthy thing of all? Skill. Skill in anything. The most valuable possession? Knowledge. The greatest treasure? Health. The greatest happiness? See, the difference between them. They're saying, what is the greatest? There is no happiness greater than contentment. And now we will continue. What is the highest dharma? To injure none of the living. What must be controlled? The mind. What renounced? To make a man agree. What is that when renounced makes a man agree? When you renounce pride, almost anybody will. And what's renounced to make a man run? What it is that you can give up to be desire. What can be renounced with no regret? And what may be relinquished to gain happiness? What makes the way? The path to follow. What makes the way? The good makes the way. Indeed, yeah. Who is the ascetic? He who remains faithful. Faithful towards your own agents, towards yourself. What is true restraint? Gratification. And what? True forgiveness. He who endures enmity. He who endures enmity. What is real knowledge? The knowledge of God. You don't believe in God, then it's real. Dr. Wood used to say, the one who knows the reality knows the reality well. What is tranquility? When the heart mind is still, merciful. When one desires the happiness of all creatures, simplicity, simplicity. When the heart is simple. You can only be simple if you are empty. Restlessness will meet you. Simplicity of life comes from eternity. If you look at the simplest people who led a very simple life, they're all very calm, going on about their business. Who is the invincible enemy? What disease has no cure? Coveting. When we start to covet what others have, it has no cure. Because then, no matter how much we have, we always think we need something. But that person has more. How can they have it? How can they have it and I don't? Who is the honest man? He who desires the happiness of all the living. See, there is a definition to create a win-win situation. And the dishonest one, the one who is ignorant. What is ignorance? Not knowing one's name. Truly, that's the greatest ignorance. Not knowing what am I supposed to do in this life. And pride. What is the greatest pride? When a man thinks that he is the one who is the doer, when you think you are the sole doer of everything that is happening around you or that you know, that of course is false pride, because what about the environment, what about people, what about the divine process, what about coincidences, or what about luck, or what about the help others are doing? Even if you're a fisherman and you say, oh, I went out fishing and I from one boat to I went to 10 to 20. But what if the sun did? What if nature deflates you? Could we do what we are doing? So yes, we are the doers, but what is soul? What is grief? When you're ignorant, we are, the more ignorant we are. How does a man become patient? By marriage. No, he doesn't say that. How does a man become patient? How does a man become patient? By subduing his senses. Which is true evolution. The water offerings to God. When the heart is washed, what is charity? Protecting others. What is wickedness? Speaking in the heart. Who is Brahman? One who studies the Veda or one who is born in it? Yudhishthira says, the true Brahma is he whose life is true. How is a man agreeable? How does he get what he wants? When he acts with discernment. In that wisdom, that distinction, this is, if I take us at a step now, this is what we need. That mindfulness is everything. How is he happy when he has many friends? And how does he find bliss in the next world? By being virtuous and disciplined. What is truly amazing in this world? Yudhishthira thought for just a minute. read every day. Countless lives enter into the temple. Yet those who remain in this world think themselves, what could be more? Vidhi lokam maranam sharanam. Yet to behave as if it's not for us. What could be more amazing? Perhaps I think they could interchange the words and call it inspiration. The yaksha laughed appreciatively. He asked, which is the path? This is what Vishnu says. Debate and philosophy lead to no conclusion. The Shrutis all differ about the nature of truth. There is not a rishi whose opinion is infallible. Yet the path is within us. The way of Dharma. The golden trail the great have trodden through all. And this is so true that before the doing, deep in our heart, always what we're doing sits well with us. Now, if we choose to ignore that voice, then we will go outward and we'll ask a lot of our people who we trust till somebody says, yes, no problem, you're doing the right thing. You're only looking for confirmation. And we will shape our story in such a way that the other person will say, that's okay, no problem. We won't tell them the real truth as it stands, but we want to hear them say that it's not a problem. There was this person, Krishna devotee, and he was fasting on the day of Kali. So we were traveling once. This was going from Toronto to and he, on his way, he said to me, I thought, no, when I was in that, he said, you're a Brahmin, you just tell me I can eat, so I'll eat. He said, you just tell me I can eat, and then I'll eat. Then I have no problem. And I think it's Krishna who said it for you. And I said, then why do you tell me what to say? If you believe Krishna is going to say something, then why don't you let him say it? That's what I used to say as well. That truth is looking for not what you but so conditioned. We are so looking for what should be in life, in the country, in society, in relationships, that anything else is just recognized that this could also be true. What is the news? This world of ignorance is like a cook's fire. The sun is the fire. The days and nights are the fuel. The seasons are the meadow. Time is the cook, who stirs us all in the pot. That is the news. Truly, that much is golden heart. You're almost losing the time. If somebody is just telling us that's not true, this. Who is the real man? Word of one's good deeds reach heaven and are spread from there across the earth. As long as the word lasts, one is called. So ultimately he's saying that the person of good deeds is the real man. And this is the last question. Who is he, Yudhishthira, who has every kind of wealth? Only he to whom joy fortune and misfortune, past and future, are always have to be analyzed. And you know, it's dual. Doesn't mean you'll always be unhappy, but the impact won't last, you know, exactly. And if nothing can bother you, then nothing can bother you. Then you can stay true to your own convictions. And this is how I want to live. So that was really